There was a time when Bethesda game studios could drop a game and it didn't just sell well. It really just took over your life. Not because it was perfect or it was the best game ever, but because it felt like anything was possible. And honestly, that version of Bethesda, it feels like it's gone. And when people are talking about old Bethesda, we're usually talking about games like The Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, or The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, Fallout 3, or even, Skyrim. Games that weren't that big, they were just free, like free in a way that modern games rarely are. So what made them so special? But before we get into that, if you guys don't know me, I'm Mr. Frosty Flames, but you can call me Mike. We do anything gaming reviews, analysis, playthroughs, etc. And we do it in a chill way. We don't like any of that over editing BS. You could listen to me like a commentary or even like a podcast or something. But if you like that style of content, make sure you hit that sub and join the Frosty Flames Legion. We recently hit our goal of 1,600 subs now, so we're aiming for 1,700. So enlist now and claim your spot in the Legion and become a Legionnaire. Anyways, back to the video. So in my opinion, why do the old Bethesda games feel so nostalgic? Why are they so good? Why do they have such charm, and why are they so immersive? And I think the biggest factor in that is freedom. And not that fake kind of freedom, not the follow the markers and choose A or B kind, not like those ones in open world adventure games. I mean like real freedom. Take like Elder Scrolls 3 for example. The game barely told you what to do in Morrowind. You had no hand-holding, no constant reminders, because you actually had to do things on your own. You had to read directions, explore on your own, and actually think how to solve these different quests and where to go. And because of that, every single discovery felt earned. You weren't just playing a game, you were lost and immersed in a world, and that's what gave Morrowind specifically its charm. And obviously when you look at Morrowind now compared to modern open world or modern RPG games, it's missing a lot of features, like fast travel to say one. However, at the time you might not like playing it, but if you could power through, if you could make every discovery feel earned, if you could just do things on your own and power through and complete the game, you will go back and be like, this was an actual good experience for me. And another factor is, old Bethesda didn't really rely on cinematic storytelling. The story wasn't always the main attraction, it was the world. And I was talking about Morrowind, but let's talk about Oblivion and Skyrim. You could ignore the main quest entirely and still have one of the best experiences ever. Guilds, side quests, random encounters, they weren't just side content, they were the game. I've even had friends that had known nothing about the Elder Scrolls, and I recommended Skyrim and Oblivion, and when they bought it and they tried it, they were like, man, this game is alright, But once they started, playing more, and once they got past that first hour or two and they started exploring around, they got lost in it, and I swear they put in hundreds of hours in both Skyrim and Oblivion, knowing nothing from it. And they didn't even beat the main story. I had a friend that I recommended Skyrim to specifically, and he was just playing through the main story. I swear, he has like 150 hours in the game, and he still hasn't met the Greybeards yet. Like, that's how crazy it is. You could easily get lost in the Fighters Guild questline, the Mages Guild, the Thieves Guild, the Dark Brotherhood, or any other guild, any other side mission that is actually interesting. And I feel like that's what the modern Bethesda games lack, like say Starfield for instance. Yeah, you do have those faction quest lines, you have the world building that they try to do, but it just doesn't feel the same. Like, look at Starfield at launch, that map kind of sucked. It was just like dots on the screen. And then I feel like the side content in Starfield isn't just as compelling as it was in say Fallout and Oblivion and Skyrim, those games. And I know, Fallout New Vegas wasn't really the Bethesda we know with like Todd Howard. They were more like Obsidian, but that game was amazing too, possibly more amazing than all of the ones I mentioned. And another real factor that made even the modern Bethesda games do this a little bit, but mostly the older ones, is that they had choices that felt like they were yours. And I'm not talking Mass Effect choices that shaped the narrative and change the ending, not in a cinematic way, but in like a role-playing way. You could be a thief, be a warrior, be a mage, or just be something completely broken like those stealth archer, right? And the game didn't judge you. It let you exist in a world however you wanted. And that's why no two playthroughs sort of felt the same. Obviously, from a story standpoint, the game was the same. You could, do the same quests and you would have the same outcomes. There was hardly really any, narrative choices in Skyrim from what I can remember, or Oblivion. If anything, you could just choose to be good or bad, something basic. But from a player standpoint, you could roleplay as anything. You could be like a mage. I've seen people do like the extremes and just live life in Skyrim, You know how you could do that wood cutting axe? You could put the log in the cutter and then move it and get wood and then sell it. You could be like a farmer if you wanted to. You could build a house. You could be like a warrior and just do like a companion's playthrough. It's the art of role playing at the time. And compare it to those old BioWare RPGs that they came out around that same time that were really big, like Mass Effect and Dragon Age. They had more narrative choices that altered the story, and you had more like companion bond building in those RPGs. And obviously they had a greater scope of choice because it changed the story itself. However, your Commander Shepard, he would always be in Cerberus. He would always be in the Alliance military, no matter how you played, right? Because he is on a strict path in the story. Yeah, you could be like Paragon, you could be Renegade, but you're always going to be like a space marine, sort of something like that. But in Skyrim, you could be however you want. Obviously, you have those main story things, like you're always going to be Dragonborn, but you could always choose that little things that changed how you played your character, because your character was really you. In those old BioWare games, you were playing as the character. In these old RPG Bethesda games, you are the character. You could be a farmer, you could be something completely different, a mercenary, a bounty hunter, anything. And that's what gave it its true freedom and charm, and that's why it was so loved by us back then. And let's be honest too, this is just my opinion, but I'm sure we could all agree that old Bethesda games were janky, but that jank made it special. Like stuff like NPCs acting weird, physics breaking, and glitches that happened constantly, but somehow that made the experience better because I felt like it made the world feel unpredictable. You never know what might happen, and all these random broken moments, they became some of the most memorable parts of the game, and that's why these games are memed so much, and that's what brings back the visibility of the game and the survivability of the game. Every once in a while, you're gonna see like a Skyrim meme of something weird happening. Like I know recently they had the skeleton meme, like where he's banging the shield, right? And moments like that really just bring back the visibility of the game, and they're like, hey, that's Skyrim, maybe I should go back and play that game, stuff like that. And old Bethesda also didn't overwhelm you with systems. It kept things simple enough to let immersion take over. For instance, in Skyrim, you could like walk into a town, hear rumors, pick a direction, and just go. There's no pressure, no urgency, and it's just you existing. And that slower pace, I feel like that's something more modern games struggle with. And that's what really comes down to. Old Bethesda games weren't just something you played for a few hours. They were games you lived in. You could like log in with no plan, wander and explore for hours, and forget what you were even trying to do. And somehow, those were really the best sessions, because it didn't feel like you were completing objectives, it felt like you were living a life inside the game. So what do I think happened? Why doesn't it feel the same anymore? And I could think that this boils down to just modern game design, because modern games now have more guidance, more structure, and more focus on accessibility. And while that does bring in more players, it also removes that sense of discovery, that feeling of just being dropped into a world and figuring it all out yourself. And of course, Bethesda now still likes to run on that creation engine that kind of sucks. So it probably gives, for instance, Starfield less of that feel, especially because the writing kind of sucks and they're stuck using old ways. Because those games, like Fallout 3, Oblivion, Skyrim, they were products of its time. A lot of the stuff, it feels, weren't innovated from then until now. Like when you're talking to someone, you still have that they're facing you, sometimes they're looking away, like that jank that sometimes breaks immersion. And it's just something that you feel like would have been fixed in that 10 years, right, up until now, but it seems like it wasn't. But in the end, old Bethesda was great because it trusted you. It trusted you to explore, to get lost, to make your own story. And in doing that, it created some of the most memorable experiences in gaming. Not because it told you what to do, but because it didn't. And maybe that's what we miss the most, not just the games, but that feeling that anything could happen the moment you stepped into them. But that's just my take on them. What do you guys think? Did I forget anything? Is that the reason why you loved Skyrim, Oblivion, all those old games so much? Why do you guys hate Starfield? Comment down below. And if you like this video, make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Join the Legion. And anyways, I love you all. Let me know what other content I should do down below too. Anyways, have a good one. Mr. Frosty Flames out. Ciao.